declare my interest as a member of the National Union of Journalists. On this wider issue of editorial guidelines, gentlemen, obviously there have been clear and unacceptable failures when it came to Glastonbury, which made the Jewish community feel unsafe. There have been clear and unacceptable failures on Gaza, how to survive a war zone. But I'd like to ask you, particularly the Director General, you said last time you came to us you'd tried to find a way to use some of the footage gathered for the film to tell the story in a different way. Now, many people, certainly my constituents and many of other constituents, feel that Israel's failure to allow journalists, including BBC journalists, into Gaza is an utter disgrace, and that as a result we're having to rely on individual citizen journalism. And this film contains some very powerful footage from children on the front line. How are you trying to make sure that that complies with your own editorial standards so that you can reuse it so people can see the truth of what's been going on in Gaza?
I welcome your words, because the first, I think we should all say that not allowing journalists into Gaza is unacceptable.
Okay.
And it really is, it puts, in my view, this is probably the toughest editorial coverage challenge we've ever had. Certainly, I say ever. 20 years I've been at the BBC, this is as tough as it gets. And we are finding the pressures on our journalists, security threats, buildings being attacked. It really is very, very demanding. I'm not just looking for sympathy there, but there's a technical point you raise. I will get to your point, but there's a technical point. It's really important that we all stand and say, look, we need access. Because we can look at a story like aid centres or whatever and hospitals, but there's nothing like having a proper journalist with our standards on the ground doing the work. So I would ask us to get access, and the idea that we can't go into war zones is patently absurd because we've done that for years and we know what we're doing. So that's a point well made. It puts everything, in some ways in a more difficult setting. Second thing is our appetite to give voice to, we may mention medics or to children in Gaza, remains undimmed. Okay, one of the things I find most demanding, I'm not looking for sympathy here, but is attribution of intent from our side. You are clearly pandering to that lobby. I'm going to be blunt, it's nonsense. We are trying to do journalistically our job. Okay?
Precisely. So can I ask you specifically
now let's get to the point on this film.
How are you going to achieve
on this
that?
film, we don't know whether we can air I tell you why. It's to do with consent, going back, doing all the footage on the rushes, the whole thing. The team are looking at it, but I can't guarantee that we're going to air anything. What I can guarantee is we are going to go after those stories, and we will be making sure we're not cowed to go after.
When you see those stories yourself, I mean, I could do a quick edit job now and say those stories are valid, they can be put together. Why has that not been done? How far away are you from doing that? Because that would reassure a lot of your audience that you're committed to hearing those real voices on the ground.
I take your point. I think there are real difficulties with airing bits of the film in terms of due diligence, but I will take it, and I can respond a little. I'll give you a more formal response from the newsroom and where they are. But my biggest priority is, actually, I'll be blunt, has not been to get that all back, but actually to get on the front foot and make sure we're telling those stories, because your points are absolutely well taken.
Well, can I, in that vein, move on to the other documentary, Gaza, Doctors Under Attack, which was not screened by the BBC because you feared it risked creating a perception of partiality as an organisation. But how do you respond to the criticism that Channel 4 News had no problem actually fulfilling their duties? And don't you feel that actually you've just been overcautious? You've swung the pendulum the other way?
No, I think we made the right decision. But I don't think it's news, by the way, from our side. It was in terms of it's current affairs. There's a slight difference in terms of a doc. But where we were, I mean, it's fairly straightforward where we were, which is we were a little bit frustrated because clearly the voices of the medics, we've given a lot of voice on our airways, by the way, and on our news coverage to medics working in Gaza under extreme conditions and the terrible things they're having to face, which is horrendous. But in this film, it's pretty straightforward. A admired journalist, but someone who does have a position on the issue with regard to what happened in Gaza war zone. You could argue, I mean, I take your feedback if you think we're being too cautious, but my view and the view of the news leadership was that we clearly had someone with a position and we needed a narrator who was a BBC journalist, making sure that we weren't open to that. Otherwise, we could be in the same old problem. And bluntly, I know this has frustrated filmmakers. Our intent is good, but if they wanted to air the film as they put it, Channel 4 can do that. They have different. I mean, we have the editorial guidelines of the BBC. It's different. It's different. I think. Look, we're making these decisions daily. I hope you can see that overall. I would hope this committee back our journalists. We're not perfect. We make mistakes now and again, but overall, and I've just seen the research, by the way, which shows that most people, the majority of people, don't have a view that we're one side or the other on this issue. So, and it's about equally divided on both sides. So we navigate the course with some personal risk to individuals, by the way. And I take some.
Well, there's serious risk to the individual journalists out in Israel being killed. Yeah, I mean that's for sure.
Totally right. Totally right.